the show, I kind of wanted to focus in on Daniel and your your trip to DC, which was your first trip to DC, as I heard you talk about.
Yeah.
I went back. What was it? Back in 2002, it was shortly after 9/11. When I went out, you get a huge bug on your shirt, by the way.
Yeah, he's cool. It's new. It's another guest.
Oh, okay.
We got a guest. It's a new bug.
I'll just flick him off.
He's just hanging out.
There you go. All right.
Fucking stink bugs are all over the place around here.
So I kind of wanted to. You were just live on Unsafe Space. That was a really good interview that you had done with Carter, and I encourage you guys to go back and check that out. That you had done with him. That was a really good interview. But there were some things that I don't think were kind of discussed or covered because sometimes it was basically an impromptu conversation.
It really was. Yeah.
So what I really kind of want to discuss, what was leading up to this trip? What was it like for you? I mean, getting on the bus, knowing that you were going to D.C., not knowing the events that were going to unfold.
Right.
What did that feel like for
Man,
you?
I'll tell you what, there was a whole bunch of anticipation that we were going to run into massive. I mean, you've seen the all the major news reports, and well, at least the people on the independent journalists that we follow that will show. When you got a big old group of Trump supporters, you got a big group of conservatives. You tend to have sometimes an even bigger group of BLM, Antifa, anti-counter protesters, and that kind of thing. Yeah. I didn't see a single one personally. I didn't see any, but the anticipation was on the way up there that we were preparing to go into some kind of a,
like a battle of some sort,
a giant, like a potential battle, but we weren't sure. We're like, okay, so we need to stick with this guy. We had a security detail with us. Like we got the plans. We're gonna stay. We got all the people counted. We know exactly who's all here. We knew who our security was. We knew who was in charge of filming. That we had some elderly people that were, a little bit older and had trouble walking, couldn't quite make the hike. We had to call them an Uber. We ended up getting fractured up. It was a mess. But
okay, so when you got there and you're actually on the ground, you're taking, I'm pretty sure you took the metro because I know I had to take the metro to get to the Capitol and other places. But
first time I've ever done that. That was cool. So I've never been on a subway before.
To me, I would almost kind of summarize this event as something that, it's kind of like going to a theme park. The anticipation is building because you're not sure of what's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, you have a crowd that large, the anticipation is building. So you get there, you're hearing people speak, you're talking to other people. What was that general sense and feeling like being on the ground, talking to those individuals and hearing the speeches that were being given?
Now, as far as the actual speeches that were given, I was just barely too far away that I couldn't quite hear the speeches.
Oh, okay.
As far as the ones that were given the main speeches on the main stage, I could hear little bits and pieces of it. It's kind of the same kind of thing you've been hearing from other speeches in the past. But from my view on the ground, just talking to the people around me, you kind of got a sense that this effort would be kind of fruitless. Like we're here, we're showing force, we're showing up in numbers, we're here to achieve delivering a message of some sort, to show our support, hoping to hold our politicians accountable. And there was a kind of an undercurrent. It wasn't like it was directly spoken out loud, but it was like this undercurrent feel of like, is what we're doing even going to make a difference? Is it even going to matter? We've got more people here in D.C. than have ever been in D.C. ever in the history of D.C.
I don't know about in the history, but it's probably up there.
I know a lot of the numbers that I've been hearing have been more like 100,000, 200,000, but there's no freaking way. There was way more than that. Yeah. I mean, I've never seen so many people in my life. I mean, I've been in coliseums with 100,000 people. That's nothing. This was ridiculous, man. This was a ocean of people. And everywhere you looked, it was just packed in tight.
So did you kind of have a sense of like, at that point when you're there and you're trying to listen to what some people are saying, did you feel like that there was going to be something happening after the rally? Did you think that storming the Capitol was even going to be a thing at that point?
No, I didn't hear anybody mention that specifically. It was just kind of, we had this rally here, the Stop the Steal rally and whatnot with Trump and various other speakers, and then we're going to go march down to the Capitol and surround the building and make our presence known.
Okay, so I know you left a little earlier after things wrapped up when they were giving speeches.
As Trump was finishing up, Chase and I and a couple of our security ended up running down ahead of everything. Right. Turns out there really was no such thing as ahead of the crowd because there were so many people already headed that way.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw the live video on that particular portion where it would just kind of seem it was really calm, really quiet, but there was so many people just quietly walking to the to the
almost kind of
Capitol.
like the calm before the storm.
It's exactly what I called it.
Yeah.
And it really felt like that. Little did I know that, within an hour, we'd be, some people would be actually, getting into the Capitol.
So when you saw the thing started to escalate at the Capitol, what do you think kind of manifests that whole situation? What do you think kind of drove people to want to do what they did?
Yes, so Krista says new estimate was around 1 to 2 million. Yeah, that feels a little bit closer to the numbers. It was a lot of people. Sorry, your question was what was the feeling going in? Like,
yeah, what do you think? What do you think kind of provoked the start of people wanting to actually make their way into the Capitol?
Now that I don't know. I do know that as we were approaching, me and one of the guys I was with, Chase and I, we split up, went a couple separate ways down 2 parallel running streets. I could look over and see a shit ton of people running down that street. I could see a shit ton of people come down my street, and they were just all right straight to the Capitol. But we showed up just at the very moment that the first barricade was coming down, and people were starting to haul ass up to the next level. Like, we showed up just in time to catch that moment, and at that moment, I'm like, holy shit, like, this is happening. Like, people are pissed. I could tell that. Like, that was pretty plain to see. But now we're actually tearing down, plastic barricades and stuff. People are, taking down the fences, the little plastic fences and stuff.
Yeah, I just kind of wondered because I've been seeing a lot of people discuss, the fact that this shouldn't have been done. You hear a lot of your politicians and a lot of people in the news saying that this wasn't something that should have been done. I have to disagree with that wholeheartedly. I think this is what needed to happen. I will have a lot of people sit here and tell me, well, no, Anthony, you're wrong for inciting violence. Well, if you've ever paid attention to our history, this is the only way sometimes the American people feel like they're being heard. Did you feel like this was just the boiling up of the last 4 years of conservatives kind of laying back?
It's been more than 4 years, but I get what you're saying. Honestly, I mean, you can only be bullied, called names, shut down, called racist, bigots, sexist, homophobes for so long. Shut down off of social media platforms, shadow banned constantly, told that what you're seeing before your eyes is completely fake news, that you're an idiot. Like, how long do you? And then you have an election where there's some clear evidence of some kind of fuckery going on. Yeah. And the politicians that are responsible for, kind of keeping everybody's minds at ease aren't even coming up in front of people and saying, hey, hey, I'm Joe Biden and I want you guys to be I want you guys to have peace of mind. So we're going to take you seriously. We're going to look into these allegations and we're going to recount and do what we need to do to make sure that you guys do understand that, I did in fact win. That nothing even remotely like that happened.
So I kind of want to, you can't see the photo that I'm looking at, but over in Hong Kong, there's been an unrest over there as well. And this was from Mike Pompeo. He said, we stand with the people of Hong Kong, okay?
What the fuck is this? Sorry, D-Live stream. We have a chat on this D-Live stream. Says, we have enabled the X tag on your channel due to the political content. For more information, please see a community guidelines. That's interesting. I've never seen that before. Okay, sorry.
All right. So I just kind of wanted to...
Now we got to fucking worry about D-Live too?
I know. But we're going to keep going. So... Yeah. So Mike Pompeo had said, we stand with the people of Hong Kong. Now, this was the civil unrest that was going on over in Hong Kong. If anybody's been paying attention to what goes on outside of the U.S., you know that there's been a lot of uprisings over in Hong Kong over the last couple of years as well. Yeah. But Mike Pompeo also said the lawless and rioting is always unacceptable. This is referring to what happened at the Capitol. Yeah. See, the thing that I think where a lot of people are frustrated at this point with their politicians, and just in general, is the hypocrisy that seems to be going along with all of this, that has been going on for 4 years and beyond. Mm-hmm. I think that's what people are mad at. You're willing to say one thing about one political party and let them get away with so much, but then yet you're quick to condemn the conservatives, and for what they do. I think that's where that anger's coming from. I think it's manifested itself into where we're at today. And I think that this is where we need to stop doing this.
And what's interesting is I witnessed on multiple occasions, you think about the BLM riots and the fires and throwing bricks and flipping cars and just all the chaos that went along with that. You didn't see that here. Yes, you saw some people get a little rowdy. You saw some people get some pepper spray and shit. Yeah. You saw people get beat down. In a what I would call just a normal street fist fight. Just like good old fashioned passionate ass whooping, so to speak.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
but
somebody lost their life. Go ahead.
Right, but what I saw was if an officer was knocked down, for example, everybody was right there to pick him up and give him the chance to walk away.
So you saw that?
I saw that multiple times. And people were saying to the police, "Look, our beef is not with you. You just need to step out of the way.
Yeah.
Like, we have no problem with you guys. We respect you. They're the rank and file police officers. We know the problems come from up top.
Right. Conservatives probably have more respect for law enforcement than any other political party.
Yeah.
And I can see where conservatives would probably pick up an officer and say, "Hey, we don't want you guys involved with this." My problem with the police now, I have always backed the blue. I've always supported our military, police, whatever. But I think in this situation, I think the cops, I don't know. I'm treading on some thin ice with this comment that I'm about to say because it's probably not going to be very popular. But the police have done nothing when it comes to what's been going on in Portland. We saw what happened with Antifa and overtaking that city, and Mayor Wheeler has not done anything to really combat Antifa.
Dan Bongino addressed this on one of his latest shows. He said a lot of the reason. He said, look, within a matter of hours, they were able to bring all the police force needed to get everybody off the Capitol steps, and back them off the property. Like, if they wanted to get people out of the Portland area, out of the buildings, out of the police stations, they could do it. It's like he said that the rank and file police officers, they know how to do their job. They know what they're doing for the most part. Not perfect, of course, but for the most part, they know what they're doing. They know how to handle these situations if given the proper support and the proper guidance. A lot of the stuff is all political. Like, if they were actually trying to secure this building and been allowed to do it as they were supposed to, this shit would have never happened. But it was surprising to me how easy it was for people to get in. The officers did not use deadly force. They were using pepper spray and flashbangs and tear gas and, of course, batons and riot shields and things like that, and then just physical barricades. Yeah. But there was no physical force being used. The physical force that got used, the firearm that was used, came from inside the building when that girl tried to break in through one of the hallways, the glass in the window or what have you.
I guess this is where I'm at with this right now, with the way we're seeing, things going on in our country, is that everybody is caught between this rock and a hard place, especially our police and sometime the National Guard, depending on if they're deployed to whatever part of the country that things are going on. And you obviously don't want to see this happen, especially conservatives. They don't want to see this happen towards local law enforcement, because we've always supported local law enforcement. And I think what we saw and what we realized when it came to storming the Capitol is that I think for the first time, the Americans got the taste of, we outnumber our military. We outnumber our police.
I did. I mean, you hear about the power of numbers, but holy shit, dude.
That's what I'm saying. And our government.
I gotta say this. For those who haven't seen or heard me say this, there was a point when I'm like right there, within a couple people of where the riot officers are, the riot police, and at some point the power of the crowd just started bodily carrying me. I could not move. I was going whether I wanted to or not, and I was like, holy shit. You don't realize the power of numbers, and I'm concerned somebody's gonna get trampled at this point. Yeah. I'm just like focusing on staying on my fucking feet. Wow.
So we saw the photos coming out of people in the Capitol that were hiding or fearing for their life, so to speak, and it made me realize that.
Oh, you talking about those staged photos by the politicians inside?
Yeah, so staged photos. Excellent acting, by the way.
Not really.
I think our government is starting. I wouldn't say starting. I think our government has lost control of its population, and we're seeing that because we're so fed up.
Yeah.
People are waking up to what the mainstream media has been doing, what social media platforms have been doing. When you do this for so long, you do get to that tipping point. We discussed this back in 2019 in February. We told people, if you happen to poke this bear that is the Conservative Party, at some point we would fight back. And we discussed this. We talked about it. And everything that we discussed back in 2019 actually played out on January 6, 2021. Yep. And that's why I tell people, why are you so surprised? You know, at some point,
are you
media,
and I surprised?
No,
Not
because
even
of what we do.
Yeah.
But how do we de-escalate things? Because Biden now coming into office is not going to unify this country. Mm-hmm. I don't care if it was Trump running for 2020, or some other, political figure. Mm-hmm. The civil unrest in this country is at an all-time high. It's not going to matter who's in office.
And Twitter and Facebook banning Trump right now,
yeah,
as far as I can tell, was nail in the coffin number 347 at this point.
Yeah. I feel like what needs to happen, there needs to be this uprising. You can call it a what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not you can call it I'm inciting violence. That's fine. I don't really care, but it needs to happen.
See, let me play on that just a little bit, because I don't think what you're inciting is actually violence.
No,
per se.
It's not. It's
let me try to reframe it a little bit for you, because this is kind of how I view this. Is I'm a firm believer in the non-aggression principle.
Okay.
That it's immoral and wrong to initiate force on someone else. So if you believe that, if that's one of your core principles, and you also believe that the government is the monopoly on force, and everything that they have the power to do is perpetuated by the use of that violence, then anything in response to that violence is by definition self-defense.
Right.
What we're calling for is not a violent uprising. What we're calling for is people to stand up and fucking defend themselves.
So you have the left,
and sometimes that defense comes in a violent manner.
Right. So you have the left saying that, when BLM and Antifa, caused the riots, the burning of cities and destroying of property, that sometimes, this kind of violence is the only way that you're going to see any kind of change in our society. But yet when conservatives do it, when Trump supporters do it, it's unacceptable. It's not prohibited, because it's just
bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, basically that's what it is. So here's where we're at. We are at a point in our society where, you have one side saying it's okay to do this, but then the other side saying it's not okay to do that. Now, what I think that a lot of people haven't realized is that the conservatives, the politicians themselves, have now turned on their own people, the people that have elected them recently.
Yeah.
Lindsey Graham, just to name one of them. He is standing before Congress, telling Congress and the people of the United States of America to accept Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as the incoming president and vice president. Mm-hmm. Where was anybody back in 2016 standing before Congress telling the Democrats to accept Trump as their president? You never had this.
Didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
Didn't happen. Erica Lynn, Erica from YouTube, she just figured out that I even went to DC. Yeah, if you want to go back and watch all those videos, there's quite a number of them. She was asking in the comments if it's I'd love to know from his point of view, was it complete mayhem? Honestly, it was the most orderly mayhem I've ever seen in my life.
Would you consider it a peaceful protest?
I would consider it a mostly peaceful protest. There you go. In the great wise words of those on the left, it was a mostly peaceful protest.
Okay.
And honestly, I mean, most people were there just real cool. Even during the chaos, as people are kind of trying to push past each other, and
you never felt like you were in harm.
I never felt like I was in danger.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
And everybody was so polite. Oh, excuse me. Oh, sorry. If somebody accidentally jerked my cord, or got caught on their backpack, and they were like, "Oh, I am so sorry." Just super polite. Just like it was. I mean, I don't know. It was surreal. It was chaos, but kind of polite and organized.
It was the most beautiful disaster you've ever seen.
It was so surreal would be a good word. A lot of people were using the word epic, but I'm going to go with surreal as my singular word of choice to describe this. It was insane.
Before we bring both Chases onto the program tonight, I'm going to talk to them a little bit more about what they have seen and and things that they had gotten involved with, while they're in DC as well.